Congratulations! You've been awarded an organ scholarship, which you might be taking up in a year's time or even in 2 years' time. For some of you, you'll be holding that scholarship and reading for a degree at the same time, so it's really important that you arrive prepared so that you get the most enjoyment and benefit out of your time at university. What you work on between now and the start of your scholarship is obviously key to your success. Let's hear from some directors of music and some organ scholars with their suggestions.
I would say prepare, because the better prepared you are when you come in, the better success you will have as an organ scholar.
My first piece of advice would be to practice, especially skills. If you are good at sight reading, if you're good at score reading, if you're good at transposition, it will save you so much time.
I would definitely advise organising a visit, coming up to see an evensong at that college, get in contact with the current organ scholar and the chaplain or director of music, and ask him if you can come up. You might even be able to sing as well along with the choir, just to see what it's all about, so it's not totally new when you come up, and you might even see some familiar faces when you start. Also having a look at the music lists. Usually they're published online on the college website, just to see what kind of things that the choir sing and what kind of accompaniments and things you might be asked to play when you join.
I think it's essential to have a really clear sense of what the demands of your new position are going to be. So do some research, go to services, speak to the director of music. If it's a place where you're going to have a lot of accompaniment responsibilities, learn some accompaniments. Remember also that while it's fantastic fun to turn out your Duruflé Toccata and your Dupré B major, it's not always the thing that you really want on a Monday evening after evensong. So I think one very useful thing is to develop a kind of stock of voluntaries. That's really important.
The first important thing is to learn around about 20 new pieces of repertoire that you can drag out, because during term time you really don't have very much time to learn new music. And also have a look at some of the big accompaniments like Stanford in G or Stanford in A, and make sure they're under the fingers, because there's not very much time when term kicks in. And have a look at the course and start looking at your reading list as well, and make sure you do read all the books on the reading list and start thinking about them as well, because the academic side is very intense as well, so you need to be prepared for that too.
The essential point is good time management, and I think that's one of the transferable skills, if you like, that you learn as an organ scholar, actually fitting a lot into your day. Now, quite a lot of organ scholars read music, but it is a scheme across the University of Oxford, so you can read almost any subject and be an organ scholar. So finding the balance between your academic work and what you need to do as an organ scholar, which will be practice, of course, but also preparation in other ways. If you're running a choir, then you've got to do quite a lot of admin to support that. Knowing who your colleagues and allies are in the college, working well with the director of music if you have one, with other organ scholars, or with the chaplain if you don't have a director of music. So building those relationships is very important, because they will make things easier for you as you negotiate, all of these different pressures. I suppose that's another transferable skill, is learning to work with people.
There's the BETS Foundation, which is all of the organ scholars are automatically in the BETS Foundation when they arrive at Oxford, and it's run by Catherine Pardee, who's from Corpus Christi, absolutely lovely, and she arranges events throughout the year, and you get to meet all the other organ scholars. So there's a lovely social support network there as well. And within your college as well, there's the college chaplain, there's your director of music, and there's your fellow students who you do get to spend social time with as well. There is time during the day. You're not kind of locked in the organ loft all day, so you don't need to worry about that.
I'm actually reading law, so I don't have mass amounts of contact hours. I do, however, have a lot of private reading to do, which means that it's often completely up to me where I do that, when I do that. So I often try and work it around the sort of that block in the evening of rehearsal plus evensong. Try and get up a bit earlier maybe, and then maybe work a bit later. But other than that, yeah, it's hard to make a generalised statement. It's basically fine, as long as you've always got half an eye on how you are using your time.
Those organ scholars who read music will find that there are actually quite a lot of crossovers between being an organ scholar and reading the degree. For example, it is possible for musicians here to offer solo performance or choral conducting as one of the options in their final set of exams. So things that they'll have spent quite a lot of their time doing as organ scholars actually then pop up as options in the degree.
The program here at Corpus is all student-led. So that means that the junior and senior organ scholars together plan the music list, they recruit for the choir, they audition the choral scholars, and incidentally, the choral scholars do not go through the normal choral trials, and there are several colleges that don't go through that, incidentally. But anyway, so the organ scholars here audition the choral scholars, they do all the rehearsing, they schedule the rehearsals, they then organize the tours, and then of course they also direct the choir and they play the organ. So they do everything between them. It's a fairly structured procedure here at Corpus where the senior organ scholar mentors the junior, and he or she will probably tell the junior organ scholar to do most of the accompanying and work them very gradually into the conducting. So if the junior organ scholar is very scared of conducting, then they'll work it in very gradually, so that maybe by the second term there will be an opportunity to do some more conducting. But then as time goes on, the senior organ scholar will then graduate, and the junior organ scholar will then move into their second year. And then at Corpus we always have 2 organ scholars because we want to make sure that the students bear in mind that their academic work is the primary importance.
We do 2 choral services a week on a Thursday and a Sunday, and the organ scholars also play for a Sunday morning without choir. On the whole, the Thursday services are smaller scale affairs. We would sing canticles, psalms, sometimes an anthem. Sunday is a real full-scale cathedral type of evensong with full choral settings of the responses, Anglican chant for the psalm, a wide variety of repertoire for both the canticles and the anthems, and then of course pre- and post-service voluntaries and hymns and so on.
So at the moment we have 1 organ scholar and 1 assistant organist, so there are just 2 musicians with me whose main responsibility is to play for services. We as a 3 share the responsibilities quite evenly, so I will often play myself and they will conduct the choir and they will take rehearsals and I will go off with the probationers and things like that. So there's quite a lot to do, taking chorister rehearsals in the mornings, working with the probationers, playing for services, accompanying choral scholars in their singing lessons and in recitals. So it's quite busy, and obviously they have to do a degree as well. But the idea is that we look for as much variety as possible, and we also try and balance out workloads so that nobody is given 7 difficult accompaniments in 1 week, that we all share it round.
They have quite a varied life, actually. They obviously play for Sunday Evensong, which is our main service. They end up singing in the choir for a service of Compline we do every week, which is followed by cocktails, which proves immensely popular. They conduct and lead a small choir on a Sunday morning, a consort, and so they have complete authority in choosing the music for that. They get to curate their own little choral world within Pembroke on a Sunday morning, and they also play for our girls' choir.
Here at Jesus College, it's one of the busier organ scholarships. We have 4 choral services each week, so the organ scholars share the playing for those and the associated preparation. We also have rehearsals with the mixed voice choir, the adults, and separate rehearsals with the boy choristers, and the organ scholars play a huge part in helping to train the choristers. They look after the junior probationers and they teach theory and solos to all of the choristers. So it's something on almost every day of the week.
I think I learned how to overcome technical challenges and expressive challenges in the music. There was very, very much an emphasis there at King's on every day being important, that we were performing absolutely at the highest standard and to the best of our ability. And I hadn't done anything like that before, every day, trying to make sure that there were no technical problems and that everything was beautifully presented, that one used the organ as colourfully as possible. There's so many different boxes to tick there. And so I had to learn to be very organised in the way that I prepared. So then when I went on to be a performing organist in London at Westminster Cathedral and Westminster Abbey especially, where practice time was quite limited in those very busy buildings, it was invaluable to me that I learnt that discipline at King's of knowing how to learn a piece to make sure that it's secure, and how to think about what the choir is doing at the same time as you play as an accompanist. You know, those are skills that if you haven't had to do it, it's quite difficult to learn later on, I think. So it's a kind of discipline, I suppose, but it didn't feel like I was subjecting myself to that because I loved it and really wanted to do well. I was very aware of all the amazing organists who'd done what I was doing before me, and it was like they were kind of looking over my shoulder at times. So I was very well motivated, I think, to work hard. But it was challenging. I mean, and there were some things that when I started there, I just couldn't do, and I had to learn how to do them. And I was very well supported by the other organ scholars and also by my organ teacher and by the director of music, of course, wanted and needed us to be able to do what really essentially was a job in that place. As well as possible. So I learned a huge amount that has stayed with me and skills that I use now in my work with New College Choir. I use those skills every day.
Oundle for Organists and the Royal College of Organists can both provide you with lots of support as you prepare for an organ scholarship. Visit our websites to see how we can help you, and good luck.